I'm going to show you the Uber driver requirements and Lyft driver requirements for New Orleans. First off, starting with Uber, as you can see, the minimum driver age is 21 years of age or older. Not gonna lie, but unfortunate. To give you a little preview for the rest of this video, Uber minimum age is 21, Lyft minimum age is 25. So if you are in college or whatever, it is unfortunate that pretty much either A, you have to drive for Uber, or B, if let's say you're a sophomore and you're, 19, I think, for most sophomores, or 19 or 20, you cannot drive for Uber. However, you can drive for Uber Eats. I'm not really going to talk about Uber Eats too much on this video, but I do want to mention it. If like you are looking for like a gig economy, flexible type job, Uber Eats or delivery driving might be your best bet. I just did a video, I'll post it below in the description, where I talked about should you be a delivery driver in 2024. I do suggest watching that in general as I go pretty much in depth about the good, the bad, and the ugly. But overall, the barrier to entry to become a delivery driver is a lot lower than Uber and Lyft. So again, if you're looking for something but you don't fit these requirements, I think delivery driving might be a better option. But anyway, jumping back into it, I mean, you've probably been seeing this as well as I'm talking. When it comes to the document requirements, you need a valid driver's license, proof of work eligibility, social security number, proof of vehicle registration, proof of vehicle insurance, and a valid and clear driver profile photo. They will run a background check. You do need a smartphone. A lot of this is pretty straightforward, to be honest. One thing I will say about the background check is they will do not only a criminal background check, but also a driver background check. Meaning, let's say if you got a speeding ticket, like say your record's clean in terms of your criminal record, but you got a couple speeding tickets, that's something Uber might take into consideration. So just want to let you know. Now going to here, I want to show you this when it comes to being, again, a ride-share driver in New Orleans. Again, with Uber Eats, another example, when it comes to, like, say, your vehicle requirements, which is something I will talk about, you typically do need a four-door vehicle. Excuse me, you 100% do need a four-door vehicle when it comes to Uber. The reason why I say typically you do is because if, let's say, you have a two-door vehicle, you cannot drive for Uber, but you can drive, or I'd say deliver for Uber Eats, right? I want to just bring that up again. Now, typically based off these analytics right here, as of 2023 to 2024, like the past month or so, the average amount of earnings per hour is about $21-ish. I say the average Uber driver and Lyft driver makes about $20 to $25 an hour. Huge pro tip, sign up with both apps. Depending upon the area, even the weekend, if there's bonuses or incentives, sometimes Uber will pay more, sometimes Lyft will pay more. All these different things you definitely want to keep in mind. And so going now to here in terms of the vehicle requirements, right? Typically 16-year-old vehicle or newer. So if you have a very old vehicle, take, I don't know, one of my favorite cars. I don't think you could even do it because it's a two-door. The 1967 Chevy Impala from the show Supernatural. I'm a huge fan of that show. Unfortunately, you couldn't drive for Uber with the 67 Impala. It's also a two-door vehicle, so definitely want to qualify. But this is something to keep in mind, which is kind of unfortunate that, like, say, if you do have an older vehicle, and it's good 1 year, the next year it might not be. So, something to know. Four-door vehicle, good condition with no cosmetic damage, no commercial branding, and passing vehicle inspection. Your vehicle does need to be inspected every year. And the good thing is you can either A, do it through, like, say, a mechanic shop, and you can submit that same Uber inspection to Lyft as well, by the way. Lyft will accept that. So a local pro tip. But also, two, you can go through the app or site Yoshi. Not Yoshi from Mario. But I actually tried it. It was pretty great. What happens is Yoshi comes right to you. It's it's 30, I think it was $30 when I paid for it. It's not too much, being honest. But typically when you get your car inspected at, like, say, a mechanic shop, it's $20. With Yoshi, it's 30, but the advantage with Yoshi is they come right to you. So the guy like drove up with he had like a cargo van with all kind of the tools to inspect my vehicle. Did a whole inspection. Boom, I was done. I'm like, wow, I didn't even have to drive. I didn't have to leave my house. It was pretty great, right? So this is something to keep in mind. Like, say, you do have to get your vehicle inspected once a year, either by a mechanic shop or Yoshi. Again, I have no affiliation with Yoshi, but it was pretty convenient, right? And like I said, once you get your vehicle inspected, Lyft also requires a yearly vehicle inspection. You can submit your Uber inspection, your completed one, hopefully it's completed and passed, to Lyft and vice versa. Cosmetic guidelines, I'm not going to lie, this is pretty kind of straightforward. Basically, the biggest thing is they don't want your car to look super bad and not have any, like, big ads in terms of, like, full body wraps anything like that. You can see kind of here like different colored hoods of doors, aftermarket modifications, window tinting, stuff like that. When it comes to insurance now, and this is a big one, is I do suggest getting rideshare insurance. Of course, make sure you have auto insurance, but rideshare insurance should be an extra like anywhere between $6 and $25 extra a month. Just do it, just to protect you as a driver. And one thing I do want to mention, which is very interesting, this is not necessarily a requirement, but this popped up, which I thought was kind of unique. Every city and state, I've done a bunch of these requirement videos, has different guidelines about just certain things. And this is one about MSY or the airport in New Orleans. Going out here, as you can see, there's a lot of different things when it comes to the technicalities. Like here in LA, for example, we have something called the LA exit. The experience of being a rideshare driver here in LA when it comes to the airport is vastly different than, like, say, when I was a rideshare driver in Boston. The airport at Fine for each city has its own little things. I'm not going to go super in depth on this. I do suggest reading some of this stuff, though, in terms of the airport regulations, in terms of drop-offs, pickups. There's a lot to this. And obviously, again, on this video, I'm more going to talk about the requirements, but this is something you should know, I think, in terms of like what you have to do, what you have to adhere to, right? All these logistics, right? Like, so there's like the FIFO system when it comes to MSY. I know a lot of places do that now, which is first in, first out. So basically first come, first serve, for another way to word that. You have pro tips, pickups at the airport. There's all these little things you do kind of have to know, right? Like there's a zone, right, for FIFO. I know like they're getting very, very picky about this. And I'm going to be honest, most cities now are kind of, I don't want to use the word cracking down, but getting very strict about rideshare drivers not being in the wrong area. Like I remember in Boston, for example, when I was driving, they started to ban drivers who just parked outside like South Station, which is like a very main place for traveling in Boston, and you could get fined actually as a driver if like you would just park there just being like this as an Uber driver or Lyft driver just waiting. So keep in mind, if like say you don't go through all of this, and again there's a lot of little things to this, I think a lot of it is kind of straightforward, but just you want to know this, you could get fined, and of course that's not what you want. Now let's go to Lyft. Lyft is very comparable to Uber, right? So I'm going to start with the driver requirements and go back up. First off, you have to pass a driver screening, criminal background check, and driving history. Valid driver's license. Temporary out-of-state licenses are also acceptable, and 25 years or older, like I said. Kind of frustrating, kind of annoying, I know, but again, something to keep in mind. Now I'm going to go back up here. Now we have vehicle information. All vehicles must be 2013 or newer, at least the exact time of this video. 4 doors, 5 to 8 seats. Not a taxi, stretch limousine, or non-express drive rental vehicle. Not titled as salvage, non-repairable, rebuilt, or any other equivalent classification. In addition, there is premium ride types. I don't really talk about that with Uber, but let's say if you have like a bigger vehicle that has a lot more seats than a typical sedan, you could do, let's say, Uber XL or Lyft XL, which gets you more money. If, let's say, you have a luxury vehicle, you're going to get those, like, say, Uber Lux and Lyft Lux rides, or Uber Black and Lyft Black, which pay a lot of money. In addition, and this kind of depends, Express Drive, I look into this. Basically, you can rent a car. Like, so you're watching this video and you're like, you know what, Mark, this all sounds great. I kind of want to drive, but my car doesn't qualify. Or, like, say you have a 2-door vehicle and it doesn't qualify, or you don't have a car at all, you can rent a car through Lyft and Uber. I'd say typically it's going to cost you anywhere between $200 and $300 a week. I usually average it out at $250, right? Just to give it an average. Something you just want to be aware of, because on one end, if you don't have a car, hey, you can still drive. On the other end, though, if you're going to be doing part-time here and there, remember, you do have to drive up until the point, I know, very Captain Obvious, but you do have to drive to the point where you make $250 in that week. And at that point, you've only broken even. So you could potentially lose money if you're not driving enough and you're renting a vehicle. Again, something to keep in mind, though. Already talked about the driver's requirements. And then when it comes here to the document requirements, you do need, insurance, inspection, like I said before, a photo, registration. I will say this about, you do have to submit your vehicle registration. It should already be registered. Don't make sure your vehicle registration is not expired. I feel like, yeah, just got to say that. Now, here's a big thing. If your vehicle is registered in Louisiana, you must have a valid vehicle inspection sticker issued by your state, parish, or city. You can find it on your windshield. It's interesting that inspection stickers are kind of weird. When I grew up in Massachusetts, everybody in Massachusetts, in the state of Massachusetts, you needed your vehicle inspection sticker on your windshield, like kind of like right by here or whatever, typically by like your driver's side or here. Or was it driver's side or maybe a passenger side, excuse me, or something. I don't know. You have to have your vehicle inspection. Here in California, nobody does. So the first time I came here, I'm like, why does no one have their inspection sticker on their windshield? Like, you don't... different states have different rules. Different cities have different rules. That's why I'm doing these videos. Emblem. This is a big one that's got more popular for both Lyft and Uber. You could probably get one of these from Lyft, from your Lyft dashboard, or you can print one out. Definitely have this. I know some people are like, I don't need the Lyft and Uber emblem. Just do it, because I have heard some drivers getting in some trouble, not like crazy legal or criminal trouble, but have maybe even potentially getting fined or whatever if they don't have that sticker. In addition, I also think this helps you out in case, like, say you're in a unique situation where, like, say, like, you pull over to the side of the road, you throw on your hazards, and a cop pulls up and they're like, hey, what are you doing? I feel like, and I've heard this happen and I've seen this, where if you have that Lyft and Uber sticker, it kind of says like, hey, I'm just doing my job. I'm not trying to be malicious. I'm not trying to do anything wrong. I'm just doing my job. And not saying it gives you a pass to do anything you want, but I think it does kind of say to everyone like, hey, like, I'm doing what I'm doing right now because I'm working, right? So I do suggest having this in addition to, I know a lot of places do require this, right? And then when it comes to driver regulations, one thing I do want to mention, and this is something that's gotten a lot more popular in a lot of other cities and states, and typically most places now, I'd say almost close to 100% of places do this now. One last thing I want to say is how much you can drive. Now, typically, you can drive whenever you want and within reason as much as you want, in a sense. You can spend no more than 12 consecutive hours in driver mode within a 24-hour period. They do this, of course, because, like, say if you want to drive for 24 hours straight, that could definitely get super, super, super dangerous. So again, this is something you want to keep in mind. Like, say if you want to go out there and you want to hit it hard, you could drive maximum 12 hours in a 24-hour period. Now, you may be wondering at this point, well, is it even worth it or not? Is Lyft and Uber worth it or not? I will say, I just posted a video, so listen below in the description. In addition to that delivery driving video I mentioned, I do have a video talking about should you be an Uber driver and a Lyft driver in 2024. I'm not going to lie, that video is an hour long, so it's very lengthy. So it's the type of video you can put on in the background if you want. But in that video, I really talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly with being a rideshare driver, because there's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of benefits and a lot of amazing things about being a rideshare driver in terms of the flexible schedule. As we all know, you can also instantly cash out your earnings. I can make $100 driving in New Orleans, hit a button, and boom, I now have $100 instantly in my bank account. It's a low barrier to entry, as you saw from the requirements. In addition, the pay can be anywhere between $20 and $25 an hour. As you saw, based off the current metrics, it's about $21-ish an hour right now you can make on average in New Orleans. But again, that could be higher, it could be lower. Another big thing I will say is to sign up with both apps. On this video, of course, I talk about Uber and Lyft. And I know for some areas, for some places, it sometimes changes even. I know some people have told me like, oh, in this area, we love Uber, we don't like Lyft. Or we love Lyft and we don't like Uber, or whatever. Sign up with both. I cannot tell you how many drivers I've talked to that are like, oh, yeah, I just drive for Uber. I just drive for Lyft. One, you never know. In a given area, Uber might pay more, Lyft might pay more. When I first started driving in Boston, to use an example, I only drove for Lyft, and I was like, hey, I don't really need to sign up with Uber. I'm driving for Lyft. Then I was like, you know what? All right, I'll sign up with Uber. Why not? I'll have both. And Uber was paying way more than Lyft. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to drive for Lyft at all. I only drove for Uber. And then it flipped back to Lyft, where I was like, you know what? Actually, after months, for whatever reason, the tides have turned, the tables have changed. You know how they turn tables? And then I started driving for Lyft more because Lyft was paying more. It can go back and forth even on the same weekend, or even, let's say, on one Friday night, Uber's paying more and Lyft is paying more the next Friday night. In addition, and this is a big way to make the most amount of money, is the bonuses. So when it comes to both Uber and Lyft, they will give you incentives and bonuses on a random weekend. Lyft might say, hey, if you do 20 rides this weekend, you get an extra $200 or something. Uber might say, hey, we're now guaranteeing you a 1.2x surge for every ride for this weekend, or whatever. Different apps in terms of Uber and Lyft, they'll go back and forth with bonuses and incentives, so I cannot suggest enough. Sign up with both apps.